All right, we'll go ahead and get started and we'll let folks are joining us throughout the next few minutes. We'll go ahead and keep letting them in out of the waiting room. But I just wanted to say a quick welcome to our webinar this evening, Creative Adaptations for the New Indiana High School Diploma, How to Take Action and Not Freak Out. And I'll do a brief introduction. This is brought to you today by Indiana University Center for the Study of Global Change's Global Employability Project, which is also co-sponsored by the Center for International Business Education and Research at IU, and the Area Study Centers at the Hamilton Luger School. We're so pleased today to bring to you Christy McBride, who will be leading the webinar today. And Christy McBride is the former director of Hoosier Hills Career Center in Monroe County. And while helping to build successful classrooms and partnerships, she developed an extensive network of educators and employers. Her work aligns career development strategies and curriculum that meets workforce readiness goals. Christy currently leads McBride Educational Consulting. We've been working with Christy for 5+ years on a variety of global employability educational workshops for teachers throughout the state of Indiana. We're so pleased to be able to offer this virtual webinar today for everyone. So thanks so much for joining us. And I'm going to end my share and step off and let Christy take over. I am going to invite you all to put your names and affiliations into the chat room just so we can see where you all are coming from. And we will definitely have opportunities for Q&A parts of this and everything as we go along. So please feel free to use the chat feature, put your name and affiliation in, and then as we go forth, use the chat function to make comments about what you're hearing, ask questions to Christy or each other, and we'll try to make this interactive and conversational. All right, Christy, thanks so much for joining us. I'll turn on over.
Thank you so much, Eli, and thank you, Linda. And I appreciate working with both of you all. I wanted to see Kate Sorensen. I don't see your face, but I definitely know your name now. So I just wanted to say, please feel free that I know it's 7 o'clock at night and you might be really tired, but please feel free to put your video on there because I'm tired too. But that is all right. And so I am just going to go through, oh, there's Miss Andrea. I am just going to go through a couple of different things here and have opportunities for questions. So we know that these brand new diploma components are just always going to be things that we have to figure out what to do with and how to make it happen. So hopefully everyone can see that screen. And thumbs up, Lindy, you can see it okay? Okay. And I just wanted to go through just a little bit of the nuts and bolts of what is truly happening, what has been finalized, and how we can try to see what we can do with it, and provide some practical hands-on opportunities for you. So I will say the first thing is that I was in education for a little over 30 years. Andrea can attest to that. She's had to put up with me for about 12 and a half of them. And absolutely have always enjoyed working with students. That's why I went into it. So I appreciate folks being here. Looks like there are a lot of world languages instructors that are here with us. So welcome. And I'd be asking myself too, what am I going to do? What are they going to say? What are they not going to say? And those world languages, they definitely are up for grabs in some of the extra credit areas. So as you can all see on the screen, things don't really change as far as the total number of credits. They've added a couple credits, 42 that they have to get now. And you should be able to see that current versus future, this comparison. I sent tons and tons of links that Eli and Linda will make sure are on a site for you, and Eli or Linda will be able to tell us where you can actually get to those. But resources so that you can get back to this, you can print it out if you want, you can make notes on it, whatever you need to do. But we see the 8 credits up here. We do have a communication focused course. You see the math with the extra credit with personal finance. Those of you that know career and tech ed know that that course is not currently offered any funding. So that's going to be an interesting consideration going forward. You see that this computer science course is something that is now required. And again, who's going to be able to teach that and these STEM focused credits? Going on down, again, social studies, they took out economics. Some schools had already taken that out, depending on the type of diploma that they were looking at. And then what did they do with world languages, right? Now we all know, or we should know, if we don't know, that's okay. I'm going to just let you know that it's important for students that are going on to four-year colleges or two-year colleges that they have a world language of some type in there, and more than 2 years. Typically it's a 3-year, but some of the colleges have made adjustments to pull that down to just 4 credits of world languages. So interesting situation going on, and I will not pretend like I can address all of the politics involved, but this is very much an industry driven situation. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about in this session was how to not freak out if these are things that you're teaching, and how to make sure that we are looking at the global competencies that Eli and Linda are going to touch on a little bit later, and that are all a part of the Center for Global Studies, and how to make sure that we are affecting that knowledge and understanding of students sooner than we had been. If you take a look at these enrollment, employment, and enlistment, whether it's an honor seal or the honors plus, there are some really interesting distinctions here. But note that the priority time to get students out into work-based learning has moved up an entire school year. They want students to be out of the building as early as their sophomore year. How are they going to get all of this in and get an honors seal? That's a good question. I don't have all the answers, but I do want to talk about youth apprenticeships, employability skills, these credentials of value, and what does it take to make all of these kind of come together and make a collective of something that we hope is still focused on the foundation of education for our students. So how many of you, I'm going to expand this out. How many of you, if you can show, like raise your hand on there, have you seen that before? So a few of you have seen that before and you may not know how to raise your hand. That's fine. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Edward, are you saying yes, you've seen it? Okay. Thank you. All right. So several of you have seen it. Let's take a look at this next piece. Well, if I can get my computer. All right, let me try it again. Let me reshare. So let's take a look at this. So these are actually the eligible courses in each of the different areas. So I'm going to roll down here and I want you to see this in world literature, biblical literature, expository writing, different courses, but these are where the additional courses can go for the English requirement. And these are your communication courses. I don't know what workplace Spanish is. I've never heard that. I don't think we had a Spanish teacher on there, but that is a real interesting look for me. And when I saw that, that was very interesting. And I wondered if there were going to be any other languages that maybe were worked into a workplace course. Again, this shows everything, and these resources will be available to you. Let's just scroll down and take a look. So the STEM focused classes, they only have to do 2 of these, not 3 of them to get their career pathway. So that's an interesting twist from what our current requirement is. International relations, modern world civilization. These are some world perspectives. And right here, any world language, level 3 and 4, including AP, can be part of their world perspectives. So I wanted to make sure that those of you who are teaching those world languages could see that. So those can definitely go into that social studies credits area. And again, you still have the opportunity to do personalized pieces in the electives where your world languages could go, but just so that you know, this is part of that new eligibility. Again, it's on your resources list. Something that I also added to your resources list is the funding memo. And I'm going to tell you to close your eyes while I scroll all the way down so I don't make you nauseous as we're scrolling. There we go. I really don't like watching that. One of our big pieces here is that we wanted to talk with you about apprenticeships and about something else that they call sniffing. Sniffing is freshmen, possibly sophomore, but really freshmen, doing those preparing for college and careers, those first initial pieces. And they want to see more, and when I say they, the politicians at the State House are directing these laws, rules, regulations, and directing our state education person, Katie Jenner, Dr. Jenner, to make these things happen for education through Indiana code, through law, you name it. So the sniffing is to start happening where they can sniff out what they're interested in doing as a freshman. If you teach freshmen, you already know what they're interested in doing, so I needn't say more about that. But those sniffing times in their 9th or 10th grade are then to lead into youth apprenticeships. Now, some of you may have heard of internships or cadet teaching. So some of those different options that have been out already available to students. But the goal is now for them to actually pull it down and to start doing that in their 10th grade year. Basically, as soon as most of them are old enough to drive, even though we know not every high school student has a vehicle or a means of transportation. But that is what is being pushed by a couple specific senators in a program called iLab, so the Indiana iLab and CMET's team. So this youth apprenticeship, 6149, is a brand new piece and can be partnered with other courses. And one of the things that's really important here is that you can see that it can go up to 12 credits. So that means they could have typically 3 credits a year, or they could do 2 credits in their sophomore year and then do 5 credits their junior and 5 credits their senior year and be gone a very large chunk of their day from the school. So that's just one of the components that folks are looking at. And I'll pause just for a second. I've seen the drop down in the chat. Are those questions, Linda or Eli, or?
One person is asking a little bit more about sniffing, just
Okay.
what that refers to.
Okay, so sniffing is like just checking out. So I will let Linda and Eli tell you about the resources list here in a little bit. We'll have a little bit more time for that. But the sniffing, so that means that they are just able to go on a job shadow or do a, take your kid to work day kind of thing. But those are those entry level courses that they would like with preparing for college and careers. So a lot of districts around here push preparing for college and careers down to the 8th grade. It can be funded in the 8th grade. It can be taught by 8th grade teachers, not a problem. Starting this next school year, every freshman who enters will have to have that preparing for college and careers course on their transcript. Wasn't a rule before this. It started with this. And with this new diploma, they have to have that PCC class, preparing for college and careers, but they've changed it to call it planning for college and careers. And so in their planning, they want them to go and take a couple of days, or it might be a whole week, that they go and see different job opportunities. They would like it to be coupled with the preparing for college and careers course. And ironically, if you know your assignment codes, or you say, hey, I really like freshman students. I really like getting a chance to work with them from the beginning and help direct and guide them, right? Maybe that's just what your calling is in education. Anybody can teach the planning for college and careers. It used to not be that way, but now it is very open. So any teacher can teach that. So you may be called on to do that. And you are right, Jordan, the amount of students who have a driver's license is way, way down. It is a crazy thing. And so one of the questions is, how are we going to make that happen? I will tell you that I happen to sit on the iLab team and went to what they called a convening in April. And there are some very interesting bills that are being proposed about how to regulate school spending around specific needs of students to get out to work. So nothing more that I can share at this point, but just make sure that you're up on those things. Make sure that the folks in your district who are watching what's happening with the Senate and the House are aware, because there are folks in both the Senate and the House that are going to be working on that. So this youth apprenticeship is very different. Again, I'm going to scroll back to the front, and some of you may say, oh, I don't even know what you're talking about with spending. Well, every school district that runs a career and tech ed course, and a lot of them are no longer just career and tech ed courses. Human anatomy, for instance, is a course that gets funding. They do so in a multitude of ways. These are the ways right here. This planning for college and careers. They get $150 back per student who takes that course. They've made a change at Hoosier Hills Career Center. Andrea can tell you that we have run the Cooperative Education ICE program. They need to make that change, and I think that it is in the books now, that it's now a work-based learning because you get much more funding for that. So unfortunately, those are some pieces that that are out there, and that we need to make sure that we all understand how these things play together. We're going to talk a little bit about employability skills and share with you because of the need or the direction that we're being given from the state to get our students out and actually get them into a situation where they can go on into a work-based learning situation. We want to make sure that we have everyone available. And so I have some things here to share with you that are about work-based learning. I'm going to show you one of the examples that actually is used at the Career Center here locally. And for the resource list, I've taken off the Career Center name and logo. And this is internship agreement and training that kind of puts in there everything that the state requires, plus just a little bit more safety to make sure that whoever is training the student at the site and that supervisor, you have that information. Whoever's coordinating and the administrator that knows that that is going on, and then parent information. And last but not least, the student signature. So all of these are resources. This is another piece that's the parent information form that tells about their driving or how they're going to be traveling to their site, as well as a photo release and insurance and medical okay to treat if, God forbid, anything were to happen to a student. Now, this would be what you would be working on with kids in their junior and senior year. At a lot of the CTE centers, we've typically only sent seniors out because we believe that they need to have training before they just go into a workplace where there could be, hazards in the environment. But we are going to be pushed to do that to get kids out there much quicker. There's also a confidentiality and safety agreement, and you can make any adjustments to this. These are all entered and shared and will be shared as Word documents rather than a PDF so that you don't have to recreate something. Did I have another comment?
Okay. Someone asks, schools require background checks for building visitors. Do the internship supervisors also have to have background checks?
So the internship, good question, Jordan. The internship supervisor is a person that's on location at their automotive services place or at their culinary arts environment. And so we have not, I have not required that because typically there are already background checks that are done within the business to make sure that they're not coming in using or what have you. In the conversation that we have around folks going out to the internship sites or to the work-based learning sites, we go over that that first section, and I'll share it just again. That agreement is very direct as far as here's what you are to make sure is happening, providing them with these, no school, no work, blah, 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 scheduling them to work, honoring their hours, but most importantly, making sure that they provide this safe area and safe instruction for all tasks that are happening with an internship or a co-op student. Typically, number one, there's already a liability insurance that we carry at the Career Center, and any school should carry that is there so that if a student is injured. But I understand, we know that crazy things happen in this world. And so we prep those students. They're in weekly. We're checking on them to say, hey, what's happening when you're doing an internship? They're usually out 4 days. They're back in 1 day. If they're ICE, they can be out all 5 days, but typically they're only out the 4 days and they're back in on one day. So there's a weekly check where if something wasn't going on right or something was just a little off. And we have had things like that. We had a student several years ago, Jordan, who had ethical challenges in the location he was at, and we removed him. And it wasn't because he was being harmed in any way physically, or in any way physically, but what he saw, what he witnessed was them not really removing something or removing a part, cleaning it and putting it back on a vehicle and not putting a new part back on, and charging somebody. And he said, this is just not right. I can't be a part of this. And so he was removed. Likewise, we've had students who end up not showing up day after day, and then the employer wants to remove them, and obviously we do too, because that's not what we want out in the field. So you do have to monitor that, and those are good questions, but no, we don't require them because they're off-site. Everyone understands that they're working at this other agency, and that's their responsibility. Hopefully I answered that. So I'm going to stop sharing this part. And looks like Eli put in there the folder in the chat so that you guys can cut and paste that pretty quickly. Wanted to do something, if you guys will allow me. I'm going to share a little bit of, we just talked about the ethics, right, and the values, and this is one of the lessons. Andrea will tell you she doesn't like this lesson as much because she doesn't think that she does it well enough, and she does a great job. I've seen her. But this is a lesson on values. I put a couple other pieces in the resources, but these are value cards that we just copy, print out. And you can use the word. You can put 20 words up on a screen. You want to say something, Andrea? No? Okay. You can use a definition or not. That's okay. But you will see these. And so I'm just going to scroll and stop and scroll and stop, because I am going to set you into rooms and I am going to ask you this question. Come up with, let's do 3. Come up with 3 values that you have, that you feel like you take into the workplace. 3 values. I'll let you look at these that you think are key to why. And so you can see there they are without the definitions. We do both because why? Because we have students who don't understand what individuality really means, right? Or can't come up with that quickly, right? And so if we give a little definition, then that helps with anybody that has a question. And when you're doing this lesson, we talk about ethics and values and what do we personally value and what guides our ethics and kind of what the difference is between those two things. And again, more of that's in the resources, but I wanted to give you something that you could do no matter what class you were teaching. And this ethics and values lesson absolutely does this. So I'm going to put you into rooms, and thank you. Andrea says it's a really good lesson that can be done with students anytime. We talk about everyday scenarios that happen in the school or their personal lives and how their ethics guide their decision making. And thank you, Andrea. And I did put in the scenarios, a few of the scenarios that we've used in the past. And so I'm going to stop sharing. And so don't anybody freak out, because we're going to go into breakout rooms, if I can make it work quickly. And we are going to go into breakout rooms, and I'm opening those rooms right now. And then I will hopefully be able to go in. Actually, I lied. Da, 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 da. There we go. I am going to open the rooms and it's going to pop you in there. Okay, so ladies, I'm going to go into the different rooms and just say, think of 3 things that you think you bring to the job that you would be willing to share. All right?
Yes.
You doing so far? Doing okay, Linda?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you want to jump in a room, Linda?
I will if it would be helpful, but there again, I just didn't know if it would be helpful or inhibiting.
Yeah, I hope if anyone ends up having a partner that isn't there, isn't participating, they just jump back into the room. Don't try to like, you know, just hang
Yeah.
out if it's not working for them. So
You can't see how many people.
it looks like everyone's active on there. So I mean that looks like a good sign, but it's hard to see from like for sure from here. So
Okay. I was gonna say, you can always put me in a room, any place where it looks low. I'll be happy to.
looks like there's at least 2 people per room. So I
Okay.
think we're okay. While she was talking, I like quickly whipped together that folder. I was like, I'm just gonna do this now.
That's
So
awesome.
I don't,
Why?
so we really do can just share that with people, you know?
That's great. You are so adept at doing that. You know, some of us are so clunky about it. It'd be like, but how
What?
perfect. They can just copy it and they've got it right now.
Yeah, exactly, right. And then all the resources that's being shared. These value cards are in there. The that form, permission form for internships is in there. And honestly, some of that's going to be, you know, even if someone just takes away that one thing, that's like, oh,
Mhm.
our school can just take this internship form and use it. You know, schools that never had to think about this stuff before. Whereas, like, obviously, Christy's been having to think about this kind of stuff for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. How helpful to have that as their template. I'll put to,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Here's the school, a public school in Indiana that's already had to think about it. My Outlook's being so weird though, because the one folder I'll have to have Chrissy go through and check, and maybe you too, Linda, after the session's over to make sure that I actually copied over. Because the one form she was just sharing it, I wasn't seeing it, and it's still not showing up in my inbox. But when I searched for it in Outlook, it came up. But when I'm just looking at my inbox, it's not there. So I don't know what my Outlook is doing. So I might have you and Christy both double check the folder to make sure I actually copied and pasted over everything that was supposed to be copied and pasted over, to double check my work, since I know for sure my Outlook's being strange.
Okay, sure. And Eli, we have a list of the participants and their emails. Is that right?
Yeah, anyone who registered, we should be able to have their names for the PGP certificate, and we can tell them at the end basically like whatever they registered for. And then maybe Linda, we should be able to get a log of who actually is here and attending. But if you want to double check that just to make sure, like write down just
I did.
yeah.
Did
Okay,
write down
perfect.
the names. Yes, there
Yeah.
were 13 at the time I did it. That included you, Christy, and I.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I will check again.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Kenny. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Having trouble with my connection, so I had to leave the breakout room. I kept freezing up. So,
Oh yeah, here we can bring Ed back too. Maybe I'll ask. Here, I'll bring him back into this session too.
or Eli, so yeah. Yeah.
Did it go? I might. Linda, I know Chrissy didn't say an amount of time, but originally she was just planning on this being like a 5-minute activity. So I might actually just go ahead and close the rooms and bring her back.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back on mute.
Okay.
Oh, no problem. Well, it's only a 15-second close. So what's the option? I'm going to give people. Oh, I can't change it. Well, they're gonna.
Wonder if I can reach Christy.
Well, I'm doing it. I'm closing the rooms. It was only a 15-second. Usually it's set for a minute timer, but I.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Hi.
Anything you help with at all?
Chrissy, you're on mute.
Sorry, I gave us the time limit and then it pulled us back. So I know, Martha, we were in the middle of a conversation there, but that's all right. So yeah, no, so who would like to share out one or two of the pieces that they of the skills that they thought were most important to them? Don't everybody talk at once or I'll start saying names and then you have to.
Well, I vote Mary because she was very eloquent.
Okay, good.
Actually, I teach at a Catholic school in Lafayette, Indiana. So the three
Yes.
values that I always kind of like try to reinforce in my lesson planning and my interaction with my students are actually freedom, the opportunity to speak, the opportunity not to be scared of your opinions, and dedication. You must be dedicated to what you do. And last, and not actually least, faith. You have to be informed by certain values, and some of them only come from the faith that you have. So
Well,
That's
thank you,
all.
Mary. That was very eloquent.
Hey, thank you.
Can you see an opportunity to use this in a discussion about how you take who you are as that person into the workplace?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, because the work experience that I have had, not only teaching, but as a volunteer and as a community leader, you have to incorporate all of that for the students because you're preparing them not only for the job, but you're also preparing them to be community leaders, church leaders. You're preparing them to add value to the democracy. So all of the experiences must be embedded, to prepare them for the macro performance that they are going to do.
Very well said. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Edward, I'm picking on you because that was my dad's name. Yep, unmute yourself and tell me one.
Actually, it was my grandfather's name also.
Okay.
So, I said integrity, honesty, and dependability. To me, the cornerstone is integrity. When you gave that story about the young man, about the parts, I was like, if I was a company and I heard that story, I go, okay, where do we hire that kid?
Absolutely.
Because we have to. If you don't have integrity, you really don't have anything. Then no one's going to listen to you. And sometimes honesty hurts, but I'd rather somebody be honest. I mean, if you're dying of cancer and the doctor says, "Hey, it's just a cough," because he doesn't want to be honest with you, I think you're like, "Come on, welcome to the grown-up table." So I think those three are important to me. And when I was teaching high school, or when I'm teaching high school now, but when I was teaching college, and the workforce, those were three pillars that we always stood on.
And what do you teach now, sir?
I teach graphic design and an adult roles class and an interpersonal relationship class.
Interpersonal relationships. Did you see that on that list for the communication?
I was trying to look through the folder and trying to see what I could find because
So in the folder, there's
Yeah.
a resource that says, here are the links.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep, it's in that link. I put them all on one page and yep. But
Okay,
thank you,
cool.
Edward, for sharing that, because those are exactly the types of things. And do you see how you could use this in a digital media presentation or a graphics course?
Oh yeah, yeah. We actually did it. We have copyright issue. Somebody copyright's wrong. Hey, now we've kind of made it where, hey, now we're gonna have we've actually had a principal come in and act like a businessman and go, hey, you stole our copyright information. Whoops.
Intellectual
Sorry.
property.
And we talked to them about that and showed them what's wrong and right. So we to me, it goes with any business. I think it's vital, and eventually your business will fail if integrity is not at the cornerstone of your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. So I'm going to make, yeah, thank you. So I am going to make Andrea talk really quick. So Andrea, unmute yourself. Eli, I'm changing just a minute. I'm going to give her 3 minutes. So one of the other things that happens, and I'm not a good salesperson. That's not what I'm trying to do. It wasn't, hey, come on this and then go do something. But I want you all to know that there are resources there. There is also another resource. My partner in crime, and Andrea was one of my boots on the ground people who wrote a couple lessons, but my partner in crime, Brenda Duncan Davis, spent 43 years in education and family and consumer sciences. And she and I wrote a book with Solution Tree called Ready for the Workforce. It's like $30, and it has all of these different lessons outlined in there from the standpoint of how to put them together for your classroom. So if you're interested, go to Solution Tree, look at my name and you'll see it. But Andrea, can you tell the folks what we do, and this is in your resource guide too, what you have done to put together panels of industry folks to come in?
Yeah, so I worked at the Career Center for several years, and I've taught employability skills probably 7 or 8 years now to every single one of our half-day students that come in. And so we do a bunch of different lessons, one of them being the ethics, and we go through a few weeks of different lessons just talking about skills, those soft skills or the employability skills that students have to be good employees, right? And then towards the end of that, what really makes it start to click and everything is we set up an employer panel. And so I bring employers in from the various career fields. And we usually have two very unlike career fields meshed together whenever we're doing these lessons. So it could be anything from like health science together with welding. You know, doesn't make any sense. But so I'll have, you know, someone from local 136 steam fitter pipe fitter union sitting right next to an RN from IU Health, right? And they're sitting next to a radiologist who's sitting right next to a sheet metal worker. Okay. But these students get to brainstorm questions that they want to ask these employers. And it typically goes to the entire employer panel and they answer them truthfully. Like I don't have to really prep these employers at all. I just say, hey, they're going to ask you some questions. Here's some of the sample ones that they came up with, but answer them how you would answer them any day, because we want these students to get the true information of the career field, right? So not everything is sunshine and lollipops all the time. You can absolutely love your job, but there's still going to be days that aren't great. And we want these students to hear about the awesome days, the not so awesome days, so that they can get a better idea of these career fields. And so these are some of the sample questions that we always start out with, just so that the kids can get their brains like thinking, right? And then I typically make them come up with at least 30, sometimes 40 questions that we'll put on a paper. And I'll have them ready for them the day of the employer panel because we do it typically a week before. So I don't expect them to remember what we came up with, but I'll put them down there for them. And those students can ask these employers these questions so that they can get, you know, a better idea. And it's not necessarily questions like, hey, what does a steam fitter pipe fitter do? Because a lot of the times these kids know those things. They know what they do in their job. They may not necessarily know what's the workplace environment like or things like that, but we want them actually thinking bigger and broader about these things that they're going to be faced with when they're adults. So, you know, some of the other ones that are really good to ask that we have students just see on here before they start thinking of new questions are like, why are people being terminated from their jobs? What is proper dress for an interview? Because it has changed a lot in the last few years. I don't know if you guys have realized that, but it's not the same in every career field, and it varies greatly. And then just little things like even what type of references do you require students to have or applicants to have, sorry. And so we'll go through all that. The kid, it really clicks for them when they hear from the adults. It's funny because we'll go through the lessons and I will tell them all these things, and then the employers say the exact same thing, and they're like, oh, you weren't lying. Sorry, I wasn't.
Thank you, Andrea. So hopefully you've seen some things. I know that we have a couple more things that I want to show you, but I wanted Eli and Linda to be able to tell you how you could connect more with specifically with that global mentality. And so Linda or Eli, whoever's going to go first.
Yeah, I'll do it quick. I've got, I'm going to share my screen again really quickly here. Okay, so I'll put the link to the shared Google Drive again in the folder, but it is shared. It should be able to be, you can share it with educators in your building. So if there are resources you saw today, we're not going to be able to touch on everything that Christy shared with us to put in that folder. So there's lots of resources in that folder that we aren't going to have the time to go over one by one. So I definitely invite you to take a look at it. I'll just share with you real quick. You'll notice that there's personalities assessment for jobs, information about specifically the diploma, This is there's the links document describing all those place resources, list of links, all of those websites that Christy was showing at the beginning of it, other kind of those employability skills and how to help our students get there. There's those value cards that we went over. There's also that internship agreement, and there's some shadowing form examples here about field trips, questions, employer confirmation, et cetera. So there's all some directly applicable things to do with your students, forms to protect your students and your school, et cetera, to, expectations with employers between school, students, and employers. So all those sorts of documents are in there to share out with you. I wanted to share, just take a minute, why the global component and why the Center for the Study of Global Change, which is a resource center for global studies, is involved in the high school diploma. And that's because Indiana is a really global place to work. And so our students, no matter where they are across the state, may be engaging in global exports, global trade, businesses with foreign direct investment. So this map here shows a map of businesses across foreign businesses that have investment in our state. And you'll notice almost every single county has businesses with foreign direct investment in them. Exports, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, chip manufacturing, soon to be agricultural products, et cetera, are all really important parts of our economy. And in addition, if our students are going into fields that are in service or healthcare or government, they're going to be working with folks that are coming into our state from all over the world. 275 languages are spoken in homes throughout Indiana, and 6.2% of the state's residents are foreign-born folks. And immigrants account for 9.6% of entrepreneurs in Indiana, so they may be working for someone who was foreign-born. Workforce skills are also the global employability. Workforce skills are important to employers. Employers are looking for people that are able to work effectively with folks from a range of different countries and cultures. And so that's why, the Center for the Study of Global Change and our Cyber Center and our Area Studies Centers are interested in this topic and supporting educators in this issue. I'm going to turn it over to Linda for a minute and talk about work we've done at Ivy Tech to develop a global workforce skills certificate that both you can promote to your students, but also can be something that you as educators may be interested in taking as well.
Hi, thanks, Eli. One of our projects the past few years has been collaborating with Ivy Tech Community College to develop opportunities that align the employability skills with some of their academic programs, such as in general studies, liberal arts, and some of the CTE programs. The Global Workforce Skills Certificate is 21 credits and is housed in the School of Business. The coursework for this 21 credit certificate can be integrated with several different majors and includes projects that develop many of the durable skills that have already been talked about, employability skills such as critical thinking, teamwork, leadership, resilience, problem solving, and just collaboration, of course, which is evidenced tonight. These are the type of skills that we get information from employers when they answer surveys and in interviews. These are the kind of skills that often are very important in hiring and also in their decisions on promotions. So that's something that we try to convey to students when we are able to talk with them about some of the nuts and bolts of the employability skills. And just to piggyback on what Eli said, Indiana is increasingly a global economy. In 2023, it ranked 9th in the country as far as exports, size of exports in the US. In 2024, it actually climbed a step and became 8th in its ranking. So many small and medium-sized Hoosier businesses do work with employers that are both local and international. And I just love some of those exports that Eli named off that we do. I've learned so much about our state just by learning about some of the exports, such as popcorn and gourds and pumpkins too.
Yeah. I'll quickly share two more resources. Some of you may be familiar with Digital Promise or Asia Society. They've specifically worked with CT educators to develop resources for preparing tomorrow's workforce. And they have a series of free resources connecting work-based learning to project-based learning, originally developed with career and tech education educators, but now here in Indiana, many of us are in education are going to have to be very explicit about work-based learning and things. So these resources are now widely applicable to educators, particularly at the high school level, no matter where we're teaching, et cetera. So that link is there in the slideshow document that there's a document about preparing tomorrow's workforce. There's educators resources about assessing project-based career learning, career planning tools, including worksheets, lesson plans, etc. So those are all there available for folks to use and dig into. And we have a resource developed here at IU called Your Global Future. This is geared at students themselves and include this link here, our career video series. And oh gosh, some of our websites are being really finicky at IU, so now I'm worried that this is one of them. But there are a series of videos interviewed from folks across the state who have different careers in Indiana, but that are globally focused. And so, of course, yep, that's not working. But they're YouTube videos. They're from a variety of fields from people around the state that have career videos. So those can be shared with students, and a resource about students who may be interested in learning more about a career here in Indiana that has a global angle to it. So those are a series of videos available there for you too. So all right, those are the resources to share with you today. So I'll make sure the links are in the chat, but also there in that shared folder. Turn it back over to Christy.
Well, I just thank you, Eli and Linda, both for sharing that. There was a question. I'm going to share one more piece here. But there was a question in the chat about whether or not, I think from you, Martha, whether or not Ivy Tech would be sending things out. And I do not know, but maybe we can connect with them and see if they can share that out with the different schools, at least from the list of the folks that have been on this video. But I love this global competence definition sheet, and this is in your resources as well. It's just it just does what I think we're supposed to do. Look at the world, recognize different perspectives, communicate, and then take action, right? And that's one of the things that we're trying to get all of our students to do. And for those of you that are teaching folks who want to be teachers, this hits it. And the other thing is that we need those top scholars to teach other top scholars and have them go on to be educators. So I just think it's so important that we take a look at those things. And hopefully you've gotten a little bit from today that gives you some practical skills, some pieces that you can actually use in your classroom and think through, and maybe you've even developed some thought partners from our little breakout room session. So thank you all for being on with us today.
And we don't want to keep you if you have other places to go. It's the evening, but we are all available to stick around for Q&A for a few minutes. So if you do have questions for us, me, Linda, and Christy will stick on for a few more minutes, and happy to take some more questions. Or if you're digging in and you notice in the folder you've got questions about the forms, how they're used, please reach out to any of us about that, and we'd love to follow up with you and assist how we can.
And we do have another session coming up on how do you schedule this and how do you make things happen in July, I think on the 28th.
July 28th.
And that'll be like, because it's going to be happening, they're going to be pushing for students as juniors to only be in the building 2 to 3 days and out the other 2 to 3 days. And then when they're seniors, out of the building completely and only back in for 1 day a week to do education, however we're going to do it. And there are some schools that are piloting it this year, so I'm asking them to be a part and tell us how it's going to work. But I appreciate everyone being on here and sticking with us, and for Eli and Linda bringing this opportunity to us. All of the things that we've talked about also connect with those credentials of value that are on that diploma list for the enrollment, enlistment, and employment plus honor seals. So take a look at those in the resources as well.
Yep. And thanks, Christy, you mentioning the next webinar on July 28th. We don't have a link live for that yet. As I said, the IU websites are being funky, but we'll get that live. We can share that all out with you in addition to your attendance today, getting a certificate for a 1 hour of professional growth points. We will be emailing those to everyone who attended as well. And we will also be posting the video on edited version of the video on our YouTube, so folks can also share that, as well as the resource folder with your colleagues in your buildings. So I think we did get and thanks, Christy. Thanks, Andrea, for jumping in and sharing about the career panels and so forth. And thanks again to all the Indiana University sponsors as well.